Hey there, this is Tom with a daily walk from ourwalkinchrist.com. So today I want to talk a little bit about another parable. This one's probably is my favorite. This is the tares among wheat, or the wheat among weeds, as some say. So this parable, I really like this one because it really shows us that there will always be pagans around us in the world and in a way in the church. And so our objective isn't necessarily to change their ways. Our objective isn't to get out there and to try and convert everybody. And it's not to get up there and uproot the paganism from among us. Now, when it is applied to the church, yeah, we actually do have that command to purify the church of unrighteousness. So when the church is concerned, absolutely, we have to get out there and purify the church. Unfortunately, in America today, too many churches are too politically correct to do that, and so they tolerate sin in its midst without an issue. And that's really is tragedy. But to give you this parable, and this is in Matthew 13, in this parable, the landowner goes out and he sows good seed in his field. And then at night, when everyone is asleep, the enemy comes in and he throws bad seed in the field. And then probably a few months later is when the workers come and they say, "Lord, didn't you sow good seed? Why is all this bad seed here?" And he says, well, the enemy must have done this while we were asleep. He says, well, should we go out there and uproot the bad seed? He says, no, let it grow. He says, and at harvest time, I will have my harvesters separate out the good seed from the bad seed, or the good crop from the bad crop. He says, the good crop will be gathered into the barn and the bad crop will be burnt. So in this parable, the simple message is that among the world, we will find unbelievers, okay? Now, the man in this case is God, throwing good seed out. The enemy in this case is the devil. He's throwing bad seed. The field is the current world that we live in. And the harvesters are the angels. Of course, we know all this because Jesus told us later on in that chapter. He will tell us that what all these guys are. So that being said, the entire purpose of this parable is that there will be unbelievers among us, and our objective with unbelievers is not to convert them to our mindset outside of converting them to our God. In other words, we are not to try to get them to live by our standard unless they choose to live by our God. And that's really what the purpose is so that we can understand there will be these evil people in the world. Now, as long as they are not professing to be a Christian, you're to let them live that way. Treat them as the Gentile or the non-believer, and you are to preach the gospel, period. We're not to convince them that homosexual marriage is wrong, despite it being so according to the Bible. We are not to get them to believe in our God superficially. That didn't really work. In fact, as John MacArthur said, commenting on this parable, he says, any time that we as a people have attempted to purify or purge the church of evil, it ended up in things like the Crusades and the Inquisitions and the martyrdoms. So we don't need to be concerned with that. I think Jesus knew that's what was coming down the pipeline when he gave this parable, which is about there will always be pagans among us. Our objective is to preach to them the gospel and to show them why we as Christians have a better way than they do. It's not to get the pagans to live like Christians. It is about getting the pagans to either be gathered up in the end times or to accept the gospel. So yeah, there's errors in the world. There's problems in the world. There's challenges in the world. But you know what? God's going to sort out the mess in the end. It's not up to us to sort out the mess. That's really the purpose of this parable. It's not up to us to sort out the mess. It is up to God to sort out the mess. We are to go out and preach the gospel, share the good news of Christ, be ready to give a defense for the hope that is within us, and then we need to be not so concerned that pagans are living like pagans in the world around us. Now, if they're in the church, we're supposed to get them out of the church. Absolutely. But if they're not professing to be Christians, if they're not in the church, pagans will be pagans. We don't need to worry about all that stuff. We just need to let the world go on the way the world's going to go on. We need to preach the gospel. Positively influence where we can positively influence, but let's not push it too far. The world is a mess, but God knows, and He's going to sort it out in the end. This has been Tom with A Daily Walk, ourwalkinchrist.com.